Good evening. Good start. Good evening. The meeting is now live and being broadcast and recorded. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Mayor of the Borough of Bracknell Forest, Councillor Peter Frewer.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Council. Now, I'm told that there is a football match on somewhere tonight, so I will endeavour to try and get the meeting put through quite quickly, but obviously we have a lot of stuff to get through tonight, okay? I'm waiving the requirement in the Council Procedure Rules requiring councillors to stand when addressing the meeting, so please remain seated. The meeting is being broadcast and recorded. If there are any technical issues, please bear with us. I now declare the meeting open. Agenda item 1, are there any apologies for absence?
I've received apologies from Councillor Mike Forster, Sophie Forster, Eggleston and Gore.
Thank you. Do we have any other apologies? Please raise your hand and I will come to you in turn.
Councillor McLean.
Councillor Butler. Thank you, Councillor McLean. Councillor Smith?
Councillor Tina Ebele as well, please.
Okay. Sorry, Councillor Presley?
Councillor Jerry Webb.
Thank you. Any others? No. Okay. Clerk, is there anybody joining us online? Please can those joining remotely confirm their attendance when the clerk calls your name.
Thank you. I can see joining line we have Councillor O'Regan.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Pickering.
Here.
Councillor Mackenzie Boyle.
Present.
Councillor Karim.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Allen.
Present.
And Councillor Welch.
Yes, I'm here.
I believe that is everyone joining remotely.
Thank you. Excuse me. Agenda item 2 is to recommend the approval as a correct record the minutes of the meeting of the Council held on the 22nd of April 2026 and the 13th of May 2026. I am happy to move the approval of the minutes. Before I ask Councillor Purnell to second the motion, please indicate if you have an issue with the accuracy. Councillor Gilby.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The minutes of the AGM on the 13th of May record Councillor Karim as both online and in person. I have confirmed from him that he was here in person. I ask the record be corrected.
Thank you, Councillor Gilby. Deputy Mayor, has anybody joining remotely indicated that there's an issue?
No, Mayor.
Councillor Purnell, are you happy to second the minutes as a correct record?
I am.
Thank you. As nobody has indicated they have an issue, those are agreed. Okay. Thank you. Agenda
Can I
items.
just to note that the amendment to the minutes will be picked up.
Thank you. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. That's not me, for a change. Right, carry on. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. The full text for declarations of interest is set out on the agenda papers at item 3. Does any councillor have a disclosable pecuniary interest or an affected interest to declare? Please also declare the nature of the interest. No, good. Deputy Mayor, has anybody joining remotely indicated they have an interest?
No, Mayor, no.
Thank you. Agenda item 4, which are the Mayor's announcements. I have one announcement to make about my charities for the year. I'm delighted to announce that my chosen charities for my year of Mayor of Bracknell Forest are Promise Inclusion and Artemis Studios. Throughout my mayoral year, I want to celebrate and support organisations that make a difference to the lives of residents across our borough. Both Promise Inclusion and Artemis provide invaluable services within our community, helping people to overcome challenges, achieve their potential and access the support they need. Promise Inclusion works tirelessly to promote inclusion, independence and opportunity for people with learning difficulties and autistic people, creating pathways that enable individuals to thrive and participate fully in community life. Artemis Studios is Berkshire's leading arts education charity and provides vital support and advocacy for those facing difficult circumstances, helping individuals and families build resilience and access the assistance they need to move forward with confidence. As Mayor, I've had the privilege of meeting many remarkable people and organisations. These two charities embody the compassion, dedication and community spirit that makes Bracknell Forest such a special place. I am proud to support their work and to help raise awareness of their positive impacts on the lives of local residents. Over the coming year, I will be organising and supporting a range of fundraising events and activities, and I hope that residents, businesses, community groups and fellow councillors will join me in supporting these worthy causes. Together, we can ensure that Promise Inclusion and Artemis are able to continue their important work and make an even greater difference within our community. I look forward to working closely with both charities during the year ahead and thank them for the invaluable contribution they make to Bracknell Forest. You can see some photos up there. We've had quite a busy period since last meeting. I think we've done 22, is it 22, 23 engagements. I've absolutely loved it, and I'm really, really enjoying it, I must admit. I've met some absolutely fabulous people, some huge talent, massive commitment some people give to their organisations. It's truly inspiring, it really is. And I've only done 2 months, so I'm looking forward to the next 8. Okay, that's enough from the announcements. I'd now like to invite Councillor Virgo to give an update on the Joint Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Virgo.
Mr Mayor, thank you very much indeed, and good evening to everybody. I just wanted to update members on myself and Councillor Webb, who've been going to the joint council on the new Frimley Park Hospital. And also, I'll just explain that because we went on a little visit with Megan. So anyway, let me just give you a little explanation. Members are aware that the Frimley Health and NHS Foundation Trust announced the preference for the site of the new Frimley Park Hospital at Pine Ridge Golf Club, and that is off the Bisley Road near Camberley. The club is owned and operated by Crown Golf, and the land is owned by the Frimley Fuel Allotments. And those allotments are a charity trust to protect green space in Surrey. Now, the new build will involve about using 5 holes of the existing golf club to construct the new build and taking a slice of the rather ancient woodland, if you've been round there, which is a bit of a shame, to be honest. So the trust will run 2 sites. The existing site, which will become the old site, will be for non-emergency appointments, x-rays, routine health matters, etc. And the new state-of-art hospital will have obviously immediate medical attention, operations, maternity, that sort of thing, A&E. So that's how the trust is going to run this, using 2 sites. And the government has committed, so I understand it, although this figure does seem to shift around a little bit, members, 1.8 billion as an envelope for the whole project. Now, Councillor Wright and Councillor Webb and myself visited the proposed site last Friday, and we were very concerned about access. There are 5 schools in the vicinity, and as you can imagine, they all come out roughly at the same time. And so they clog these tiny little roads as the children are collected and delivered in the morning. Now, while there's less traffic, I think, it's be fair to say, going into the new hospital because of the older hospital, access is definitely going to be a challenge. And Councillor Webb and myself will definitely push very hard to understand how that's going to come about, because it's very important that the citizens here, the residents here, can get to that hospital. And of course, it's really important that blue light ambulances can get there. Now, there's no completion date for this, but the RAC has to be completed for all hospitals, I'm told, by 2035. So lastly, just summing this up, lastly, all the residents can voice their opinion by completing the online questionnaire on the website. And that's the website is, of course, Frimley Health NHS Foundation Trust. Or there's some listening events locally. And there's one, I think, in this area on the 22nd of July, 6 o'clock at the Open Learning Centre in Bracknell. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Virgo. I'd like to thank Councillor Webb and Councillor Virgo for the hard work they've done on this committee and for the information that they give us. Okay, item agenda number 5. Would Councillor Purnell like to present the Cabinet report?
Okay, thank you. We've had 3 recent meetings of the Cabinet, April, May and June, and we've done quite a lot, so please make sure you are sitting comfortably. Under the engaged and healthy community priority, we have agreed to consult on the draft education sufficiency strategy for 12 weeks. And the strategy will help plan enough school places and support for children and young people from 26 to 2031. We have the SEND improvement update, where Cabinet noted the latest SEND improvement update, and the Council and NHS partners will continue working together to improve support for children and young people with SEND. Cabinet also noted the requirement to develop and submit a local SEND reform plan. Cabinet approved a procurement plan for education and transport for pupils who have been permanently excluded. The approach aims to keep services running smoothly, improve quality and provide better value for money. Cabinet approved the procurement plan for education transport. The agreed approach will help provide safe, suitable transport for eligible children and young people. Cabinet approved a procurement plan for nursing, dementia nursing and hotel services at Heathlands Care Centre. The contract will help the Council meet care duties and maintain quality standards. Cabinet agreed the Education, Skills and Growth Overview Scrutiny Panel's recommendations on SEND communication and engagement. The panel carried out the review as part of the Council's response to the Ofsted SEND inspection report. 4 recommendations were put forward and agreed. Cabinet approved the Domestic Abuse Strategy 2026 to 2032 and the associated action plan. The strategy sets out how the Council will support people affected by domestic abuse. The action plan includes taking forward a Violence Against Women and Girls Charter this year, which is one of this administration's top 3 priorities. Approval of the plan shows commitment to tackling domestic abuse as a whole Council priority, strengthening public and survivor confidence and supporting a coordinated response to prevention, protection and support. Cabinet also approved the Exploitation Strategy 26 to 31 and Action Plan. The strategy covers exploitation risks affecting both children and adults. It aims to spot risks earlier, ensure more consistent safeguarding responses, and create smoother transitions between children's and adult social services. Cabinet approved the Children and Young People Participation Strategy and Action Plan. This strategy sets out the approach on how children and young people will be involved in shaping services, decisions, policies, and ensuring their voices are heard and our lived experiences are taken into account. And I thoroughly recommend that you read this strategy because it was certainly one of my favourites. We've got the Best Start in Life plan that was approved 2026 to 2029. The plan sets out support for families from pregnancy to age 5. It will help services work together to improve early years outcomes and reduce inequalities. Cabinet noted the Environment and Communities Overview and Security Panel's review of social and affordable housing and committed to responding to the recommendations at a future date. Cabinet approved the procurement plan for targeted short breaks for children and young people with disabilities and will include a recommissioning a short break play scheme, additional short-term activity services and continuing support through the Inclusion Fund. Cabinet endorsed the final local SEND reform plan 2026 to 2029 and local partnership maturity matrix. This council, the council's strategic direction for SEND reform across education, health and care. It also reinforces partnership accountability for delivery. On to the thriving and connected economy. Cabinet approved how major government revenue grants will be used in 2026 and 27. The funding will support national and local priorities for residents, and the approach gives flexibility to adjust funding during the year where needed. Cabinet approved updated Hackney carriage taxi fares. The new fares aim to reflect current costs while staying fair to passengers. The tariff gives drivers and passengers a clear and regulated charging structure. Cabinet approved the parking SPD, which gives clear guidance on parking in new developments and will help ensure that parking arrangements are appropriate, sustainable and aligned with local needs. Cabinet approved the new Planning Obligations SPD and withdrew the old 2015 version. It explains how developers should contribute to transport, community facilities and the environment so the necessary infrastructure is available as the borough grows. Cabinet agreed to work with councils across Oxfordshire, Berkshire and Swindon on a Thames Valley spatial development strategy. Bracknell Forest Council will act as the accountable body for the partnership. The green and sustainable environment. Cabinet agreed the council should formally join the restructured Joint Climate Action Board. The board brings local organisations together to work on climate action across Bracknell Forest. Cabinet approved the next Climate Change Delivery Plan and the 26 to 27 Action Plan. The delivery plan set out the council's priorities for climate action, while the action plan outlines specific activity that will be taken over the next year. They support the council's wider objective of achieving a green and sustainable environment. Cabinet approved the Biodiversity and Green Infrastructure SPD. This provides guidance on protecting and improving nature in new developments. It will support clearer planning decisions and better green spaces. Cabinet approved the Master Plans SPD. This explains how master plans should be prepared and assessed. It will help guide planned and joined up development across the borough. Okay, moving on to the ambitious, resilient and sustainable organisation. Cabinet approved publication of the Corporate Peer Challenge report and action plan. The review gives an independent view of how the council is performing. The action plan will help the council make further improvements to benefit local residents and communities. Cabinet noted the council's performance in the council plan overview report from January to March 2026. Most actions were either completed or on track, with a small number rated red. Most performance indicators were rated green, showing positive progress overall. Cabinet approved the 26 to 27 service plans, and the plans show how each directorate will deliver the council's priorities. They will help track progress and manage resources and support accountability. Cabinet approved procurement of the council's low-code digital platform. The platform supports online forms, workflows and case management. Cabinet approved procurement of an integrated customer contact platform. This will help manage inquiries and support reliable customer contact. And finally, Cabinet approved a procurement plan for a Capital Works contractor framework. This framework will make it quicker and easier to appoint contractors for property and capital projects. Before I move to questions, I just want to do a little quick good news announcement. We're informed today that Bracknell Forest Borough Council has been awarded the Gold Award for the Armed Forces Covenant Employer Recognition Scheme. This demonstrates just how dedicated this borough is to supporting the armed forces communities and their families. I'd like to thank the officers for their hard work, and also Councillor Pickering and Councillor Mike Forster for their continued advocation and commitment to the armed forces and veteran community. I'll take questions.
Thank you, Councillor Pennant. That's very good
Just
news.
need to get some water.
Yeah, okay. While Councillor Burnell gets the water, is anybody indicated for questions? Councillor Barnard first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Leader, for your summary of work. And I noticed that there were 2 references to SEND. It is now some months since you announced that the government was going to proceed with the new Bucklers Park SEND Autism School. We've now reached the 15th of July. Parliamentary recess has started. Where are we with this project? I know they're short-term plans, but where are we with this project? Because it will be a considerable length of time before the school's delivered, and I think we need to be clear and open and honest with parents what that timescale looks like.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Barnard. As much as I would love to be able to give you a date right here and right now, unfortunately, I can't. It is something that I know the team are constantly chasing. In fact, we spoke about it just today in a meeting, and we'll be urging government to give us an indication of a timeline. But as I'm sure you are aware, there is a backlog, and schools are needed desperately all over the country. So, you know, we have to be prepared for that.
Would you please, Mr. Mayor?
Go on then, supplementary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Leader, this school has been discussed and debated, and as you yourself said in this council chamber, that the plans are in press, almost ready to go. I don't think it is acceptable that this or any government keeps us waiting, given that we have an off-the-shelf plan, and given that you announced in this council chamber some months ago when you were first elected that this school was going ahead. Therefore, can I urge that both at a political as well as an operational level, we pursue with absolute diligence the need to advance this. We are a small authority, and the entire SEND reform plan and everything that goes with it is in part totally dependent on us having sufficient places to cut home to school transport costs, to deliver for our children within Bracknell Forest. And we're probably looking at a longer term delivery than any of us envisage. So I absolutely understand what you're saying, but I don't think it's good enough. And I really hope we can provide further and clear political pressure, given, of course, that I understand that there might be changes in central government that will mean to remake and renew some of those relationships.
If I can answer,
Yes.
Thank you. As I have said before in this chamber, this new school was needed over 10 years ago. In the Ofsted report for 10 years ago, there was not enough provision in the area. We have delivered funding for the school within 3 years.
Thank you. Councillor Presseland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Burnell. Sorry.
Yeah, members, please do not talk while other members are talking at the rostrum. Okay, thank you.
You spoke about an action in the domestic abuse strategy, which is to produce a Women and Girls Safety Charter. Can we please have an update on this? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really excited about this safety charter. So the Women and Girls Safety Charter and a toolkit to accompany it. And that toolkit will comprise of resources for organisations who sign up to the Charter's pledges. It's currently being finalised as we speak and is due to be signed off very, very shortly. It's going to provide a clear commitment for Bracknell Forest businesses and organisations to take practical action to improve safety, raise awareness and create environments where women and girls feel safe, respected and supported. There's going to be a launch event in mid-August where local businesses and organisations will be encouraged to sign up to the Charter and demonstrate their commitment to making this borough a safe place for women and girls. And I would love to see as many councillors there as possible supporting the cause. What this Charter does is demonstrate leadership and collective responsibility. Everyone has a responsibility to ensure that Bracknell Forest is a safe place for women and girls. And by encouraging education on healthy and respectful behaviour, prevention, clear and accessible reporting, pathways, zero tolerance of misogynistic behaviour, the communities can reduce harm, and increase confidence in public safety, so that women and girls do feel safe and respected in every aspect of their daily life. And I can't wait to hear about how this charter is having a positive impact on women and girls in the borough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Virgo, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Leader, can I just ask you a question following Councillor Barnard's point? There seems to be a lot of confusion about this. We understood that the previous MP allocated or found money for the SEND school, and that was passed through. Is that correct, or is that false?
I'm not aware of that claim, and it's something that have to be looked into.
Would it be possible just to, because there's a lot of rumour here, and just flush it out, and either it did or it didn't actually. So,
thank you, Councillor Barnard.
Just on that, it's on Hansard record in the House of Commons that money was secured for a special school under the previous Conservative government, and those plans were suspended when Labour came to power. My question, though, it follows on from the Women and Girls Safety Charter, which I'm very supportive of, and I know colleagues are. What steps have we taken in preparation for that? What steps have we taken in preparation for that to understand whether all bodies that have a statutory obligation and duty in their constitutions and operating plans are actually doing what they should do in terms of promoting and supporting the safety of women and girls? Because it's great to have a charter that we want people to sign up to, but there are multiple organisations in our borough, employers, charitable organisations, voluntary sector organisations, others, council, health providers, who have a duty. Are we confident that all those bodies are doing what they should do and need to within law, as well as then encouraging the charter to go forward? Because I think that's a really important starting point. And have we audited and understood what's going on?
And that's exactly what this charter will find out. There is a toolkit for businesses, for operations, and it will find out that information.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. My question is, it's not for a charter to find out, but surely we need to understand whether that's happening at the moment.
I will come back to you in writing for that. But I just wanted to add that the original bid for the school was approved in March and April 2023.
Which was under the previous Conservative government.
Just.
Not just, it was. It was,
Councillor
Madam
Barnard,
Leader.
you're supposed to be just asking questions now, okay? So, are there any more questions? No. Deputy Mayor, are there any questions online?
No questions online.
Good. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Councillor Pennant. We now the recommendations within this report is for noting. Therefore, we can consider the report noted. Okay, we come to item number 6. Is the annual standards report. Councillor Allen was supposed to be opposing it, but I can't see him here.
You can present it online.
He can present. I do apologise. Councillor Allen can do this online, present this online. So, Councillor Allen, would you like to present the report, please?
I was presenting agenda item 6, which is the previous one.
It is agenda item 6, Councillor Allen.
Okay, so so this report is a statutory report which is required to be published annually. It's essentially a report card on how councillors at both the borough and town parish level have been behaving, as measured against the Code of Conduct, which is what we've all signed up to. And the news is not good. There was a threefold increase in the last municipal year when compared to the previous year. There was a total of 44 complaints, 26 against borough councillors and 18 against town councillors, all on a single town council. Whilst 50% of these required no further action after the initial review by the monitoring officer, this has still required a significant amount of resource to resolve all these issues. And I'd like to thank the monitoring officer for his resilience in battling against the oncoming tide of complaints. Let's hope that we do not get a repeat of this in the current year. Thank you. This report is for noting only.
Thank you very much, Councillor Allen. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor Allen, please? No? Is there any questions online, Deputy Mayor?
No questions online, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The recommendations within the report are for noting, therefore we can consider the report noted. Thank you. We now come to item 7, the Overview and Scrutiny Annual Report 25 to 26. Is it Councillor Barnard you presenting this?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move that report in the absence of the Chair and Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, does anybody have any questions at all?
Councillor Haffajee, happy to second.
Oh, so yeah, that's sorry. Thank you, Councillor Haffajee. Are there any questions at all? No questions online, Deputy Mayor?
No questions online, Mayor.
Okay. I'm afraid I've lost myself a little bit here. I do apologise. Just to speak. Yep. Sorry. Thank you. If there are no further questions, I'd like to ask Councillor Barnard to speak to the item. Can you confirm you're happy?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Happy to speak to this. So I think, first of all, I'd like to say on behalf of all the members of the Overview and Scrutiny Commission, and then by definition, those panels that feed into the work they're doing, that it has been a very full and very productive year. And I think just to put on record, I think how ably chaired and vice-chaired it has been by Councillor Forster and by Councillor McLean. I think the thing that is very important about the Overview and Scrutiny function here is that through a process, I think, of rigorous questioning of Cabinet members and or other parties and bodies involved, that a series of recommendations are made which we, as an Overview and Scrutiny Commission, feel are commensurate with the needs of this Council. Their work is important, and I believe it is well regarded, and I would also like to put on record the thanks of the Commission to all officers who have supported both Cabinet members and the functioning of the Commission during the course of the year, and recommend the report to the Council this evening.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barnard. Councillor Haffrey, do you wish to speak or reserve your right to speak later?
I'll reserve, please.
Thank you. Okay, does any councillor wish to speak on this matter? No? Okay. Deputy Mayor, are there any requests from those remotely?
No one online, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So, Councillor Barnard, would you like to... Sorry. Does the Councillor Haffajee, would you like to speak on the motion?
Nothing further to add, thanks.
Nothing further. Okay, thank you. Councillor Barnard, would you like to sum up?
You'll be released to no. Thank you.
Thank you. The recommendation is set out on the screen. The Democratic Services Officer will count our votes, so please make sure that your hand is clearly raised. Only those in the room can vote. Can all those present in the chamber indicate while raising your hand if you support the recommendation? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. We now come to item 8, the review of political balance and committee allocations. Does any councillor have a question of Councillor Purnell? Please. Sorry, Councillor Smith, sorry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I note recent news that Councillors Temperton and Bailey are returning to the Labour group, which I'm sure is welcomed by all. I'm just wondering, is there an opportunity within the report at this time to address the additional elements of that proportionality change, given that I think every meeting for the last 4 meetings we've had some form of vote on committee memberships? It would be good to draw a line under it.
I wish. I wish. Unfortunately, the news that Councillors Bailey and Temperton were rejoining the Labour group came after the agenda had been published, and there simply would not have been enough time to reconfigure, crunch all the numbers, and get all the groups, everybody in the right groups, etc. So no, unfortunately not. There will be the chance to do that in September.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. Any online, Deputy Mayor?
No, not online, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If there are no further questions, Councillor Pennell, before I invite you to speak to the item, can you confirm that you're happy to move the recommendation?
I'm happy to move.
Thank you. And can we confirm that we have a seconder to this? Councillor Barnard.
I'm happy to second that motion and provide such services are required at future meetings to further address the balance at Councillor Pennell if as and when required. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move to the debate. Councillor Pennell, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
I have nothing to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak now or reserve your right?
Again, you'll be relieved to know I have nothing to add.
Well, this is going well. Does any councillor wish to speak to the debate? Councillor Gilby.
I am so sorry to interrupt the flow, but a minor correction. I'm listed as the representative for the Berkshire Record Office. For greater awareness, that no longer exists. The name was changed to the Royal Berkshire Archives, and assuming nobody would oppose this, if we agree the assignments, I'd like that changed on the record after this meeting, please.
Thank you, Councillor Gilby. Are there any more hands showing? No. Deputy Mayor, is there anybody online wishing to speak to this?
Nobody online, Mayor.
Brilliant. Thank you.
In the interest of absolute clarity, shall we just accept and second that amended title so we don't have to go and do that one again in September? But I think formally we probably need to do it. Okay.
Okay. So, yeah. So, yeah. Is it somebody wish to propose that? Do we need a proposer and a seconder? Yeah. Councillor Barnard proposing. Seconder. Councillor Pennell. Do you want to vote to that? Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. You know, yeah. I think it was. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Councillor Pennell, would you like to sum up?
Nothing further to add. Thank you.
Okay. The recommendation is set out on screen. The Democratic Services Officer. No, I thought that was the. Oh, okay, cool.
That is carried.
Yeah, that was on the amendment, wasn't it? Yeah, we vote on the amendment. So do we have to vote on this again then? Okay. 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 So this is on the screen now. Okay. So for clarification.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
unanimous as well.
I do apologise.
Okay.
I didn't think I would create this much bother.
Right, I think we've done that one. Yeah. Okay. Item number 9 is the questions submitted under the scheme of public participation. We have received notice of one question, which is set out on item 9 at the beginning of your agenda and will be displayed on the screen. The response from the relevant cabinet member to the question has been published as a supplement to the agenda. Both the question and the response will be taken as read. The member of public is not in attendance. It has indicated they do not have a supplementary question to ask. So that's covered, yeah? So that's that one done, okay. We have received notice of 7 questions which are set out at item 10 at the beginning of your agenda and will be displayed on the screen. The response from the relevant cabinet member to the question has been published as a supplement to the agenda. Both the question and the response will be taken as read. Councillors can only ask one supplementary question, which should arise directly from the published response and be succinct. The first question is from Councillor Harrison to Councillor Pickering, Cabinet Member for Housing and Communication. So, do you have a supplementary, Councillor Harrison?
Yes, thank you.
Please go ahead.
So thank you, Councillor Pickering, for your answer, which was quite detailed about the process. So about the actual policy, the City of Sanctuary, United States, these cities have had quite a significant amount of violence associated with the policy, because it's basically to resist the policies of the central government against the police and so on. Given these are almost copycat policies in the United Kingdom in terms of sentiment, and that in councils of sanctuary in the UK we have had quite a few incidents of violence involving asylum seekers, was it helpful that this speculation potential policy was actually published in multiple council papers, and why didn't you put a stop to it earlier? Will you rule out bringing it back in any form or any other name in future?
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. I'd like to invite Councillor Pickering to respond, please.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. I mean, I don't actually see that link with America, and I haven't really studied what's going on in America, so I can't really speak to that. So I took over this role in March, as you'll be aware. Inherited a work programme, but I was surprised to see this published before I'd had a chance to have a brief on it, read any proper papers on it, or discuss it with officers. I took the decision. It doesn't sit within our 3 priorities. I've got housing and violence against women and girls to focus on. So we took the decision not to go ahead with it. I don't think that it is a good use of anyone's time, really, to discuss something that we're not going ahead with, and we've said we're not going ahead with. Happy to answer your question, but I also think it's unhelpful to create any links or suggestions of more violence or words of intimidation towards members of our community. That all being said, my understanding of the Council of Sanctuary scheme in the UK is that it's not taking any part of existing council budget away from the direction it was meant to be going to. It is funded by a specific grant, which council would apply for specifically for this. And it also does not support any influx of new groups into our community. It's specifically to support people who are already here. So that being said, I can't really speak to what's going on in America, and we have ruled out continuing with this.
Thank you, Councillor Pickering. The third question is from Councillor Barnard. Sorry. The second question, is by Councillor Barnard to Councillor Pickering, Cabinet Member for Housing and Communication. I'd like to invite Councillor Barnard to ask one supplementary question.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Pickering, for your written answer. However, from that, I'm actually really no clearer, and let me explain why. So, the way I look at this, Councillor Pickering, is either officer spent time and resource researching the Council Sanctuary issue without the Labour administration's knowledge, and I understand that could have predated you taking this role, before it slipped into a forward decision pathway in the community plan without your knowledge, thus using valuable resources. And we know from discussions in relation to a potential motion later on this evening that using officer resources, as Councillor Gilby has said, we've got to be careful. Or it was at the ask of Labour councillors, possibly in the Cabinet, to include this, and that it all came to a shuddering halt when the idea was adversely challenged by residents. So, I Councillor Purnell, when we talked about it, you said 2 things. First of all, that you hadn't been briefed, but secondly, why wouldn't we welcome refugees and things? And your written response in this was, that you hadn't been briefed. So, can you confirm, Councillor Pickering, whether this is actually a Labour climb down or actually an officer-led decision? If it is an officer-led decision, and if this work was instituted by officers without members' knowledge, how many other issues are being worked on at the moment without the express permission of the Cabinet, given that resources are valuable? And as you said, you didn't understand why it fitted with your priorities. And in context, Councillor Pickering, conclusion, I was a Cabinet member for many years, and nothing would appear on the forward plan unless it was something that politically we had decided we would take forward. So I struggle with the concept that somehow an officer-led piece of work got onto that. So interested in your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnard. Councillor Pickering, would you like to respond, please?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Barnard. My understanding is what we did ask for it to be explored last year. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I don't think it's a waste of time for officers to explore ideas on a whole range of things. That's what we're here to do. We're here to come up with ideas, identify issues in our communities, and explore things with imaginative thinking. So I don't agree it's necessarily a waste of time. I was surprised, as I've said, and I expressed surprise as I've said, to see something published that I hadn't actually had a meeting on, but coincided with me taking over the role. And from that point, we took the decision not to move ahead with it. So I really don't think it's a good use of anybody's time, talking about people's time this evening, to continue talking about something that we're not doing.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question? At the start of that, Councillor Pickering, did you say that you
One more
had...
question, Councillor, and that's it.
Sorry, I didn't hear the
one more
words.
question, please, and that's it. Okay.
No, I didn't hear the words. Can you clarify? Can you please repeat what you said at the start about what happened last year? Was it members or an office? I missed the first bit. Can you repeat the first sentence you answered with, please?
So I think officer-led conversations progress this. I, from my understanding, I don't think our group was adverse to those conversations or exploratory. It wasn't in my sort of gift at the time. I wasn't part of those conversations. But does that clarify?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Moving on. The third question is from Councillor Barnard to Councillor Pennell, Cabinet Member for Council Strategies and Communities. I'd like Councillor Barnard to ask one supplementary question.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Mayor, given the sensitivity of this issue, I hope you'll bear with me while I try to explain as succinctly as I can what my supplementary question is. So, Councillor Pennell, thank you for your response, which sets out a process that is already documented. But my question to you was about political leadership and accountability, not about council process. And let me explain why. Councillor Pennell, as you stated previously, there was full awareness of the rape charge against Diwan Khan in 2024. And this offence occurred in a taxi. Information about this particular offence was not shared with the Conservative councillors, but was known by members of the administration. So why did the administration, and Councillor Jeffries in particular, given his role, not ask for an investigation into this matter at the time, given that you, as leader, have chosen to publicly blame the previous Conservative administration for not carrying out an investigation prior to May 2023, when we had absolutely no reason to do so? This Cabinet member investigation might well have resulted in further questions being asked of PPP before your Labour administration renewed the PPP contract in December 2025. So my supplementary questions are, is it really therefore appropriate for Councillor Jeffries to be supporting the motion being debated later this evening in relation to PP, given the failure to carry out the type of investigation you expected from us, Conservatives, thus missing the opportunity to review the provision of Diwan Khan's licence last year? And what conclusion can I therefore draw from your recent attempts at deflecting attention away from any responsibility and accountability
Barnard,
that Labour should take for this whole sorry saga by blaming everyone but yourselves?
You're only allowed to answer one supplementary question.
I think it's two parts of the same question. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, point of information. Councillor Barnard said that the offence occurred in a taxi. My understanding was that it was his private car.
Actually, it was the mayor. It was the mayor's mother's taxi, and he was a taxi driver, Councillor Brown, as was reported in court.
Okay, thank you. Can we let Councillor Pennell respond to the question, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Barnard. I know this is something that you get quite passionate about, as we all do. But I'm not. I haven't been trying to deflect from what happened under the Labour Party. In fact, I have apologised. I have publicly apologised to residents for the role that the Labour Party played in this whole sorry mess. You know, that what I was asking for from the Conservatives was an apology to residents for what happened under your watch. I have not and I am not personally blaming any member of the Conservative Party for Divan Khan being given a licence. I'm asking you to take responsibility and accountability for what happened when it went under your administration, as I have apologised for what happened under the Labour administration. That is the right and that is the proper thing to do.
Thank you, Councillor Pennell. The fourth question is from Councillor Virgo to Councillor Pennell. I'd like to invite Councillor Virgo to ask his supplementary question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the leader and the explanation. I'm very grateful. I have a supplementary. It is not a political one, believe me. It's just an honest answer. I know this. I just want to make this clear. When I looked at your reply, I saw some of the leaders thought we should have a mayoral system from the outset, rather than a strategic authority, which in my head looks terribly over bureaucratic. I just wonder what you really thought. I mean, it seemed like a reasonable suggestion to me.
Absolutely. We have been working towards and will continue to work towards a mayoral strategic authority. When you say a strategic authority, I think you mean a foundation strategic authority. That's okay. Which is what the Thames Valley, including Swindon, so Oxfordshire, Berkshire and Swindon were offered, a foundation strategic authority, and what we were all working towards, and what we just needed to come together and have a unanimous decision on. But unfortunately, we did not get that unanimous decision. Ultimately, a mayoral strategic authority is the aim. It's the mayors that are sat around the table at Downing Street, and we want to be at that table. We want the growth, we want the investment, and it's there for the taking. It's there for the taking. So we'll keep working towards it, and I do hope that with a change of Prime Minister, we will hopefully get there sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Councillor Pennell. The fifth question is from Councillor Smith to Councillor Gilby, Cabinet Member for Planning, Transport and Countryside. I'd like to invite Councillor Smith to ask one supplementary if he wants to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes. I thank the Cabinet Member for his response, and I'm pleased to note the continued progress with regard to clearing the backlog of search requests. I note that the Cabinet Member advises that the findings of the IT audit will be reported to the Governance and Audit Committee. I do feel, however, that the significant disruption produced by this issue to residents calls for a more public level of accountability. And therefore I ask, can the council member advise how he will ensure that the outcomes of that audit will be communicated in a format accessible to the affected residents?
Councillor Gilby.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Whilst I can't make a commitment because IT implementation generally and the review specifically fall under Councillor Jeffrey's portfolio, I would encourage the publication of a summary of that review in a publicly accessible format. So, for example, we have a web page on our website that was dedicated to communicating with residents on Arcus updates. I'm quite happy to encourage that a summary of the review be published there, and knowing Councillor Jeffries as I do, I would be surprised if he wouldn't also be thinking the same way as well. So I'll hope you take that as an answer to your question.
Thank you, Councillor Gilby. The sixth question is from Councillor P. Thompson to Councillor Frost, Cabinet Member for the Environment and Climate Change. Councillor Thompson, I'd like to ask a supplementary question.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
I thank the Cabinet Member for his response, though note that it does not answer my actual question. I recognise that it is South East Water's responsibility to manage and maintain water supplies, but as this is a critical service for our residents, I would expect the relevant Cabinet Member to be keeping a watchful eye, including proactively communicating with relevant utility providers, particularly during the period of unprecedented pressure. We got low pressure this week. What direct communication has the Cabinet member had with South East Water, and what reassurance has he received regarding resilience of the supply to Bracknell Forest residents, beyond the limited information he has already pointed out, very helpfully, on their the water company's public website? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Thompson. And I know in the original question the case of Kent, and just want to say that I and others here will share concerns following the recent supply failures by South East Water there. And it's important to note that in those instances, the regulator Ofwat worked as intended and stepped in swiftly, conducting investigations and imposing £30.5 million of improvements to be paid for by the firm's shareholders with no impact on customers whatsoever. I also want to stress that Bracknell Forest Council is working closely and directly with South East Water through our emergency planning team to ensure that the plans referenced in my initial reply are in place and kept up to date. I want to note that the assurances from the original question are from just last week. So just last week, South East Water confirmed to us that there are no imminent supply issues in our council area. I take the issue of our water supply very seriously. I'm proud to be part of this council that declared the climate emergency in Bracknell in order to highlight the seriousness of the issue here. And just recently, we were both at a screening of the People's Emergency Briefing, of which water security formed a prominent part. I totally agree with you that we should be keeping a very close eye on such a precious and vital utility, and want to assure him that Bracknell Forest Council works as closely as possible with utility providers, and as closely as is possible, given that some years ago we decided to hand over our vital infrastructure to private companies. But I'd be happy to meet with Councillor Thompson further to discuss any particular issues you'd like to raise further. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take you up on that.
Thank you, Councillor Frost. The seventh question is from Councillor Zahurin to Councillor Gilby, Cabinet Member for Transport Planning and Countryside. I'd like to invite Councillor Zahurin to ask his supplementary, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your reply, Councillor Gilby. It is reassuring to hear that individual issues were rectified. However, residents went through very prolonged disruptions throughout that period of works. Can you confirm whether the overall impact of SGN's works in Sandhurst has been fully reviewed, and what lessons will be applied to future utility works? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Rather than a one-off review, as an organisation, we are always actively learning lessons from each instance like this. I do acknowledge that this has caused significant disruption in Sandhurst. I think disruption is quite frankly a fancy way of describing this. It has caused an awful lot of stress for people trying to get about Sandhurst, and I certainly don't want to minimise that. But we are always actively learning. I think whilst we can take issue with how SGN have conducted themselves in certain instances, I do believe that we have been adept and forward in our approach in dealing with them to ensure that we hold them to the high standard that we would expect of all our operators in the borough. And as part of this active learning exercise, which I mentioned, again, appreciating the impact that this has had in Sandhurst, I am very happy to extend an invitation to any and all Sandhurst councillors who would like to sit down with me to understand that we have taken all those lessons on board and how we take utility operators to a high standard in future, building on what we've already done so far.
Thank you, Councillor Gilby. Okay, now we've received 3 motions submitted under Council Procedure Rule 11 of the Constitution, which is set out at item 11 at the beginning of your agenda. Each motion will be moved and seconded, then we will move into debate. You will be able to speak for no longer than 5 minutes. Councillors in the room will be invited to speak first. The mover of the motion will have the right to reply before the vote is taken. We now come on to the first motion outlined on screen. Before I invite you to speak, Councillor Barnard, please can you confirm that you are moving the motion?
I can confirm that I'm moving the motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Virgo, do you second the motion?
I do, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Virgo. Councillor Barnard, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah. Thank you very much,
Yes.
Mr Mayor.
Thank
Small businesses are the lifeblood of any enterprise economy. They offer employment opportunities in our local community, generate wealth and often offer young people their first jobs. I'm sure we can remember those days, summer holiday weekend and those Christmas jobs. I've been struck by the number of local small business owners that have approached me since my State of the Borough speech when I highlighted the challenges facing them, sharing how worried they are about the current climate for business, in particular in relation to business rates. Their concerns are voiced not just from the hospitality sector, but also relates to local smaller charities and other small businesses across our borough. And so I decided that as part of this, I would look into some of the facts in relation to what's happening to business in this country. And I was quite struck by how stark these were. Each day in this country, 3 established businesses, 3 companies are going bust. That's 649 businesses in the first half of 2026, which, well, my maths isn't brilliant, but I understand is about a 6% increase on the previous year. The second fact is, and it's an inescapable fact, it's recorded in Parliament, that approximately 75 billion in extra taxes have been levied by this Labour government since the GE in 2024, affecting both businesses and the supply and consumer sides of the economy. Even the Resolution Foundation, not a source I would normally quote as they are a respected left-wing think tank, are sounding the alarm bells and in doing so are offering a damning indictment of the first 2 years in office. The source of the following facts is a lady by the name of Ruth Curtis, who is their chief exec. Currently, unemployment sits at close to 5%. Young people not in employment, education and training in this country are now well over 1 million. More tax rises than any other chancellor. The significant rise in national insurance contributions from employers have not helped business, and private sector pay are falling. Now, I'm fully well aware that thanks to the less than generous government settlement, our resources as a council are significantly challenged. That has always been the case, and that is why this motion very specifically does not ask for us to do something, but to explore what would be involved. But I believe it is right that as a council, we urgently look into the cost of this type of scheme, a business rate support scheme for small business, and how it might work in Bracknell Forest. We can then, as councillors, have an open and honest debate in this chamber whether such a scheme is sufficiently important to reprioritise our spend. Small businesses matter to all of us in Bracknell Forest. They support other local businesses, retain talent in our borough and create wealth within our local communities. Business success should not be seen as a bad concept, but as a reward for risk-taking and hard work. A borough without an enterprise economy, where businesses fail even when well run, where business owners face personal uncertainty, when the burden of business tax kills innovation success, will not be the borough of opportunity that we have all been elected to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnard. Councillor Virgo, do you wish to speak or reserve?
I'll probably reserve. I just want to endorse really what he said, and I do think it's a worry to all of us, but I'll speak at the end. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Virgo. Does any councillor wish to speak? Councillor Bidwell.
Yes, I'd like to suggest an amendment, please.
Thank you, Councillor Bidwell.
Can you put it up on the screen?
Do we have a proposer for the amendment?
Yeah. I'd like to propose the amendment. The amendment's on the screen, please.
The amendment's on the screen now. Do we have a seconder for this, please?
Yep, Councillor Purnell.
Thank you. Councillor Barnard and Councillor Virgo, are you? Would you like to support this amendment or not?
Can I just clarify? Does this amendment replace in entirety the motion I have submitted? So can the proposer of the amendment, Councillor Bidwell, point out where actually we undertake some work to understand what the costs would be, which was a substantive part of the original motion?
Yeah, well, what I wanted to be able to do was to be able to suggest that what you proposed in this motion is a change to how council can alleviate small businesses, which is really already public knowledge, and we went through some time ago about the rate reliefs that are available for all businesses in the borough. Take exception to the fact that you believe that the economy is failing in the borough, because it's not. It's growing. And that we have various procedures in place which you're well aware of to be able to give the right relief to the right businesses in the right sectors.
Mr Mayor, I'm not prepared to accept this amendment on the basis that it substantively changes the original motion, that in the comments that Councillor Bidwell has just made, he's suggesting I'm saying the economy in Bracknell Forest is failing. I made it very clear in my speech I was citing national statistics from the Resolution Foundation. I did not reference Bracknell Forest. I was asking that as a responsible body that we undertake this work to see what might or might not be possible. Therefore, as the substantive nature of the motion has been changed in my view, I will not be willing to support that amendment.
Okay, Councillor Bidwell, can you answer
Well,
that, please?
there was an inference for sure that Bracknell was not performing, and as he is well aware, and I will be reporting to review and scrutiny in September, the initiatives that Bracknell Forest has got in place to help small businesses, and that then you'll be able to see that the opportunity to be able to help businesses is ongoing. What you're talking about is specifically about trying to help further with the business rates relief function. Now, that is something we will continually look into trying to help with, but we are hamstrung by the rules and regulations of government, and it's not really in our gift to overturn that, but we will be looking in other ways to be able to help small businesses.
Well, I stick by what I've said. My suggestion is, Mr Mayor, I should have said this at the end of my speech, both on the amendment and the substantive motion, I would like a recorded vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, well, as the amendment has not been accepted, okay, we will have to debate the amendment before voting on whether to accept it. Okay, so Councillor Bidwell, would you like to speak to the amendment, please?
Okay. I'll reserve, actually. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, who was the seconder? Sorry, Councillor. Councillor Purnell, would you like to speak or reserve?
I will speak now.
Thank you.
And I want to say that this amendment makes it clear that we're under no illusions that there will be small businesses in this borough who are struggling financially. I don't disagree with the statistics that you've quoted, but they are all a symptom of 14 years of a Conservative government who have squandered public money. In fact, we learnt just yesterday, £10 billion, wasted on PPE that was no good for NHS staff. NHS staff that they were clapping on the doorway. And of course, there was a 370 million for the failed Rwanda scam. All this public money just wasted. What this Labour government has already done is put in practical measures to help small businesses, such as the additional small business rates relief. And with this motion, we are committing to ensuring that businesses are aware of the additional rate relief reforms that are available to them, and working with our local MPs to lobby the government for further reforms. We're not going to commit local taxpayers' money to solve a problem that can be dealt with in a more practical way, and that's why I support this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Purnell. Does any councillor wish to speak on this motion? Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the significant challenges faced by numerous small local businesses and other organisations as a consequence of central government's business rates re-evaluation. Whilst the government purports that the new multi-tier system is intended to reduce the business rates burden on small businesses, In application, we are seeing disproportionate negative impacts on certain types of small businesses, particularly those in the hospitality sector, as this motion rightly highlights. This is in addition to other recent tax increases which have negatively impacted businesses, such as raises in their national insurance contributions. Liberal Democrats have challenged these measures both nationally and locally. I would particularly remind colleagues that when this local Labour administration decided last year to balance our books in part on the back of local charitable organisations by removing discretionary business rates relief for charities, it was the Liberal Democrats who publicly challenged this decision, exercising the call-in procedure for the first and only time it has been used on this council in many years, in order to hold the Cabinet to account for what we believe to be a damaging and short-sighted decision. We can only apologise to the affected organisations that that challenge was unsuccessful. We lost that battle, but we will continue to fight that fight for you wherever opportunity permits. With regards to the motion before us this evening, we were very happy to support the proposed motion moved by our Conservative colleagues. On this matter, we find common ground. I do, however, acknowledge the concerns which have been raised by the Labour group this evening, noting in particular that any feasibility study into additional discretionary rates relief for hospitality businesses is almost certain to produce a very predictable result. This council, like councils across the country, faces unprecedented financial pressures. Discretionary rates relief can only be provided at a cost to the council coffers, and that is a cost that we are ill able to afford while still maintaining the standard of services our residents rely upon. On this basis, we therefore will be supporting the Labour Group amendment this evening in recognition that we believe it offers comparable practicable outcomes without diverting officer time and costs on additional studies to which we already know the answer.
Thank you. Councillor, I'll take Councillor Barnard first.
It's good to debate and discuss this issue. And Councillor Smith, I understand exactly what you're saying. And I had thought in the motion I'd made it clear that it was just actually to put into focus by a feasibility study what this would actually cost. Because I think the reason I wanted to do that was not in an expectation necessarily that we could do this in full, but just to be very transparent and demonstrate a measure of support to business. Whereas actually I take on board the comments you've made, Councillor Smith, in the principled manner you've made, and actually understand that. I'm pretty disappointed by the comments that I've heard from you, Councillor Purnell, with this regard. You might smile, but the staggering complacency in the approach that you've made to this, that you're talking about past forms, how many hundreds of thousands of pounds did it cost Andy Burnham and his vanity project in the Macclesfield by-election? We could trade spending and non-spending. How many secretaries of state to the Treasury left notes on desks? You might smile, but you're the one that's mentioning all this. I am focusing and championing local small business in Bracknell Forest. This is where entrepreneurs make their name. It is staggeringly complacent. It shows little regard or understanding for what's actually happening in small businesses in Bracknell Forest to actually just say, well, it's all right, these measures will go. I have to say that I would have liked to see us actually work out what would be involved, because then the real debate in Bracknell Forest is actually, as Councillor Smith has outlined there, which is whether we can afford to do it or not. Because if the answer is we can't, then responsibility needs to rest to the government to actually understand the harm that these particular changes are causing business. And I'm glad, Councillor Smith, that you mentioned the charity sector and the changes last year, because the three of the organisations that approached me have made the point that, having been absolutely clear and open in your support for charitable and voluntary sector organisations, that actually you just chopped that support off last year. So the bottom line is this. Tonight we've experienced, both through your answers to questions and to your response to this motion, that all you can do is to dwell in the past. I'm looking to a better future in Bracknell Forest, where there's proper acknowledgement and support for small business, where we actually understand that this really matters, because I want to live in a borough. I want my children and others that stay in the borough here to be in an economy where the enterprise economy works. Now, there are big challenges, and I would be perfectly understanding if, when we debated the full costs of this, that it transpired that this was prohibitively expensive, because it would do two things, Councillor Purnell. First of all, it would bring into focus how badly we were treated through the local government settlement, but secondly, it would highlight the real significant challenges. So I take and understand where this motion will go this evening, but I, for one, am content that I actually, in this council chamber, champion the problems facing local small business, and I think they will make their own mind up on whose side this Labour administration is, as in this and so many other things. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I see Councillor Virgo's arm up? Yep, Councillor Virgo.
There's a lot of politics in this, Mr. Mayor, and there shouldn't be. I am struck, actually, whichever side you are on this argument, that any government can turn round to a business, as there was, as I put forward from Stirrups, that were quite happy to state this, and it's a hotel and a catering area, and that went up more than 150% from 92,000 to, I think it was nearly 200. And now, of course, those people can appeal. Of course they can, but it takes a year to appeal, and that is still holding over them. And they have a business, and they have, they have people to employ. If they've got to pay this money, because as you say, that's the government decision, so they have to pay it by statute. Then they will have to get rid of staff, and they will have to stop all extra investment in whichever they want. This is a stupid decision, and I would rather actually have seen it on income tax than I would on businesses, frankly. And I know this government didn't want to do that. So, I do think, take the politics a little bit out of this, but it seems to me, if we see some of our big businesses here in this borough disappear, and I think we will, unfortunately, unless we do something about it. And Andy Burnham has already said he would look at that sector, and I think that we should say thank you for that, because he will re-examine it. But it's not just, of course, that sector; it's others as well. But I do think this is a really important issue, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Virgo. Councillor Watts, next, please.
I just wanted to alert you, Mr. Mayor, there are some questions online.
Yeah, we have to do the room first. Councillor Frost first, then Councillor Bidwell.
Thank you, Mayor. I am speaking in support of this amendment, and I think, given the kind of focus that the initial motion put on some of the effects of the latest kind of revaluation, I just want to kind of highlight, for the interest of balance, that for any of those businesses seeing bill increases, the latest revaluation comes with a support package of over £4 billion over the next 3 years. So there will be a transitional relief scheme providing more generous support to large ratepayers, a supporting small business scheme worth over £500 million, expanding the supporting small business scheme to those eligible for retail, hospitality and leisure relief, and introducing new permanently lower tax rates for eligible retail, hospitality and leisure properties. So I just wanted to say that the change to rates is coming with a big package of support, and my feeling is that locally in Bracknell we have a thriving town centre and businesses that make it a place where we want to live, and I think this amendment sufficiently addresses concerns to make sure that we support small independent businesses by signposting them to all the relevant support available. So I'm very happy to support this motion and the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bidwell, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I was going to. Yeah, I think Councillor Frost has really said what I was going to say, but I'd like to make a statement, though, that business rates has been a bugger's muddle for many years, many administrations, and it's taken a Labour government to start to sort out and try and make it more equitable. And I don't think we need to take any lessons from the Conservatives on how to run an economy, and so we won't be taking their advice in this matter either. But as far as local businesses are concerned, there are many initiatives which, as part of my other portfolio that I'm responsible for, that demonstrates to us that we are supporting in every way possible to make Bracknell even better and a higher growth borough than it has been for some time, and we will continue to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Bidwell. I believe we have...
Mr Mayor, we have two online that wish to speak, and that's Councillor O'Regan and Councillor Mackenzie Boyle.
Okay, I'll take Councillor O'Regan first, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I hope you can hear me over the internet. Yes, I want to speak in support of the amended motion. I believe that the original motion was addressed to me in my role as Cabinet Member for Finance and Business Transformation. So with that context, I'd just like to say a few words. I think, as we've already heard, the Bracknell Forest Labour Administration is business, small business and entrepreneurship positive. And this administration supports having good jobs in our community and a growing economy. I think that goes without saying. Business rates, it's a complex area. It's an area of national economic and tax policy, and has already been pointed out. Andy Burnham, who will be the Prime Minister in 5 days' time, has in the past expressed supportive views, particularly in respect of hospitality. And let's hope that he continues to put some of that interest into new policies at a national level. It's also worth pointing out that our local MP, Peter Swallows, has been very supportive of local businesses in resolving the impact of the recent changes in new business rate calculations and their implementation. Yes, this council can implement discretionary relief from its share of business rates, which is 50%, not all of it. The rest goes back into central government in support of specific policies. But the original proposal was not costed, not even roughly. And whatever the cost is, it's not budgeted, as we all know. It's well known that this council is facing financial pressures. We have a budget gap of 10 million. Now, if we want to propose a change, then I believe it's customary for any suggested change to be to the budget, to the published budget, to be matched by an identical reduction in expenditure or an increase in income. What was originally proposed was very wide-ranging and lacked specifics, and that's what's missing. And even a modest level of relief is likely to be a major hit on the council's budget, with a big balancing reduction in spending on services. So I'm not going to trade numbers here, but we did some basic calculations on a very modest scheme, and the numbers are very significant. Therefore, I'm asking the movers of the original motion, which I'm speaking against, what is going to be the balancing item? If you're in support of this, what's going to be the balancing item? That is our custom and practice if we're making changes to a published budget. Members also need to note that the impact of business rate relief, the impact is not very clear cut in terms of employment growth, profits, etc. You can look at the research on this. In other words, an across the board rate relief idea is both expensive and is also a blunt instrument in terms of achieving the objectives that we'd like to see for the local economy. Obviously, myself and my colleagues, many of whom you've heard from this evening, we'd love to continue our work to engage directly with small business owners, in particular retail, hospitality and leisure and other areas that are under pressure, to understand how we might support them specifically with targeted and effective policies in the round. And if the proposers of the original motion have specific business owners in mind, then they should feel free to approach us. I think I've heard at least one business that I know quite well has been mentioned in the debate.
Councillor O'Regan, you have 20 seconds left, just to let you know, okay?
Fine, no problem. So I finished. I support the amended motion so we can continue the good work and look for specific ways in which we can help local businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Regan. I'd like to bring in Councillor Mackenzie Boyle, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just bring in what Councillor Regan says is missing from this debate? And that's numbers. I have in front of me numbers. The jewel in Bracknell Forest crown is Crowthorne High Street. It's full of businesses and hospitality areas that we need to protect. Can I give you the numbers, what our businesses are paying? No one's actually given us a number. Councillor Bidwell hasn't given us a number, even though I did give them to him on the 8th of January this year at overview and scrutiny. The vault in the High Street, £370 per square metre. U Bakery down by the station, 350 square metres. Let's go to Butlers Park, 180 square metres. Let's go to Pinewood. Now that's 35 quid square metre. Why? And the coffee shop in Sandhurst, that's £240 per square metre. It's madness, and the madness continues with supermarkets. Our Cherry Local, £100 square metre. Supermarkets, Lidl, £325. £210 a square for Co-op. Duke's Ride food and wine near the station, £350 a square metre. I mean, really, you have to draw your own conclusions what's fair and reasonable about here. How Duke's Ride food and wine deserves to be financially, I won't say the word that I've got in front of me, but shall we say, unhappily sorted out, shall we say? It's beyond me. Foot traffic down there, for instance, is low compared with the high street. So competition is directly opposite with the new site proposed, which is 1 metre and 1 minute away. I mean, it's madness. We've got to look at the numbers and let's protect our small businesses. I've got a raft of numbers here. I'm just picking at random, but they are all in Crowthorne High Street. Councillor Gilby has said it's the jewel in the High Street. So has Councillor Bidwell. And I know our MP likes to come down and sample all the wares in our High Street. So let's look at this and get some movement, please, and get the real people saved, the people that are protecting our community. Thank you. I won't support this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie Boyle. Are there any more debate? Okay. I'd like to ask the proposer of the original motion, does he wish to sum up, please, Councillor Barnard?
I think, Mr. Mayor, in terms of summing up, I think actually, with the council, and with respect to a number of members, you're missing the point of my original motion. And I think you are, and you know, there's no malice behind this, I think you genuinely are. My motion actually said, initiate an urgent piece of work as to the feasibility of emergency discretionary business rates relief scheme for hospitality businesses, including pubs, restaurants, cafes and small independent venues, and other small businesses operating within Bracknell Forest. And the work should investigate how best to prioritise. I'm not asking this council at this point in time to commit anything. I'm asking them to have the courage and conviction to actually think about what this might look like. And in my speech, I made it very clear that we would then bring back to this council chamber the very debate, Councillor Regan, that you want to have, which is, well, if we're going to do this, what does it mean we can't do? Because I think, as Councillor Mackenzie Boyle said when she gave us that list of numbers, and as Councillor Virgo said, we need to be absolutely clear that we understand those challenges. And the point here is this, is that you can't institute significant tax rises, I quote again the Venerable Resolution Foundation, and actually expect that not to have a direct impact on businesses. And I don't believe that Bracknell Forest is immune from that. My bottom line in this is that are we really that scared to have that debate and discussion in this chamber? because I fully expect the numbers that come back to be pretty difficult and challenging. And actually, rather than taking business people for granted, and may I use the expression, maybe taking some of them as fools, have that debate and discussion in this chamber. Argue the point that Councillor Smith made, that actually it might well not be affordable. So at least they understand that as councillors, we have publicly and actively considered what is involved. This is not the first time this evening that in discussion in this council chamber, we've had some pretty petty political nonsense thrown around this chamber. I will say to you very clearly, I'm here, as Conservative councillors are, because we believe that small business, the enterprise business economy, that borough of opportunity, is under threat and at risk. And I would ask again that this administration has the courage, because I ain't going to give up on this one, to come back and start actively considering what would be involved. That is what real democracy is about. And that actually, where I totally support what your former leader said, Councillor Mrs Temperton at the start, about openness and transparency in debating issues. Tonight, you have collectively demonstrated how you want to shut that discussion down because you think you've got all the answers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, fellow councillors, you don't, we don't. I ask for some work to be done to actually push that debate forward. And I'm perfectly expecting to come back and actually have to understand things might not be affordable. But let's show business that we're prepared to consider it. That's all that I was asking. That's what that motion says. Should you wish to interpret it, I will let the residents of this borough and businesses make their own mind up about who they wish to see take the agenda for business forward in future years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnard. Right, okay. Are there any more? No. Okay. Right, now a recorded vote has been called for. We are voting on the amendment now. Okay. It's set out on the screen to vote for. The Democratic Services Officer will read out the names of councillors in the room. It's alphabetical order. That only those in the room can vote. Is that clear? Be clear on it? Okay.
Thank you. When I call your name, can you tell me if you're for, against, or abstain from voting against the amendment? So, Councillor Bailey.
For.
Councillor Barnard.
Against.
Councillor Bidwell.
For.
Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Cochrane.
For.
Councillor Collins.
For.
Councillor Eberle.
For.
Councillor Frewer.
For.
Councillor Frost.
For.
Councillor Gilby.
For.
Councillor Haffergy.
For.
Councillor Harrison.
Against.
Councillor Hayes.
Against.
Councillor Mossam.
Against.
Councillor Penfold.
For.
Councillor Pressland.
For.
Councillor Pennell.
For.
Councillor Robertson.
Again.
Councillor Smith.
For.
Councillor Temperton.
For.
Councillor Kath Thompson.
For.
Councillor Philip Thompson.
For.
Councillor Virgo.
Against.
Councillor Watts.
For.
Councillor Wright.
For.
And Councillor Zarudin.
For.
Six against 24. I said 24, 6 against.
Okay. So that's 24 for and 6 against. So obviously the amendment is carried. Thank you.
Is that it? And that forms the new substantive motion.
Yeah. And sorry, Carol, that is obviously carried and forms the new substantive motion. So
we'll go back
we
to-
return to the substantive motion.
Lost the misscript. Page are we on? Bottom of 11. So now we're going to vote the basic substantive motion.
Okay, apologies for that. We're going to go back to the substantive motion. So we now will start the debate on the original substantive motion. Okay, so does anybody wish to speak? Did you have it, Councillor Barnard?
Yeah, no, just to say, as the amendment is now the
It's the substantive
substantive
motion.
motion is now the amendment that has been passed, that as Arnold Schwarzenegger said, I won't be supporting it and I'll be back with some future suggestions in the future, so thank you.
No, yeah, no, my apologies, my mistake, sorry. Okay, is anybody else wants to speak to the now substantive motion? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, we now go to the vote. Again, it's been a recorded vote. It's the same principle as we did a minute ago. The clerk will call out everybody's name in alphabetical order, and you just say whether you are for or against the motion. Clear? Good. Okay.
Yeah, so just to clarify, we are now voting on the substantive motion, which is now on the screen, which was the amended motion, but now forms the substantive motion, if we're all with us. So again, I will call names, and again, if you could tell me if you're for, against, or abstain on the substantive motion. So, Councillor Bailey.
For.
Councillor Barnard. Against. Councillor Bidwell.
For.
Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Cochrane.
For.
Councillor Collings.
For.
Councillor Eberle. Councillor Frewer.
For.
Councillor Frost.
For.
Councillor Gilby.
For.
Councillor Hafferty.
For.
Councillor Harrison.
Against.
Councillor Hayes.
Against.
Councillor Mossam.
Against again.
Councillor Penfold.
For.
Councillor Pressland.
For.
Councillor Pennell.
For.
Councillor Robertson.
Again.
Councillor Smith.
For.
Councillor Temperton.
For.
Councillor Kath Thompson.
For.
Councillor Philip Thompson. Councillor Virgo.
Against.
Councillor Watts.
For.
Councillor Wright.
For.
And Councillor Zarudin.
For.
So again, that is 24 and 6 against.
Okay, so the figures are 24 again to 6. That's not the football match, by the way, that's the votes.
So that has carried.
Obviously, that's carried. Okay, thank you. So we now come to the second motion. I understand an alternative motion has been tabled. Is that true?
Yeah. Shall I answer that, Mr. Mayor? Just to explain to members, there was my motion has. Let me say this because I'm losing the plot here. Basically, with the help of the Liberal Party and the Labour Party and the Green Party, we've got an alternative motion. So I'm going to withdraw my original motion and put forward the alternative motion, which has been actually written by Councillor Smith. And but the motion itself, I think members will read and understand, is as strong as it was in the original, but it's slightly embellished. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Councillor. You're actually obviously moving this new motion, yeah? Yep. Do we have a seconder for that?
Councillor Smith seconding.
Thank you. So, Councillor Virgo, would you like to speak to the altered motion?
Yes, I would, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to prolong this, but it's 0-0, so I shouldn't worry about it at the moment. So I'm told.
Be in time for the penalties then, yeah?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, but look, this is a really important motion, and I'm really pleased that I think we've got all the parties on board of this. And I have to say, Mr. Mayor, I have to make this absolutely clear in the original motion. The government's decision, this is not particularly political because it affects us all in this room, as we know with the amount of temperatures we've had to endure over the last, 3/4 heat waves. And also, I have to say, the drought, which is now before us, certainly in France, which is absolutely frightening. And I do think that the original idea of 10% biodiversity net gain was a really good idea. And in fact, Bracknell was one of the first. I was put right by the Greens about this because we weren't exactly the first. I think Reading was, but nevertheless, we were there to push those policies forward. And it is anyone in this room, honestly, will see the depletion of insects and life around us. And I'm just reminded, I don't want to go on too long because I know people want to watch football, but I am absolutely minded of the fact that when I was younger in this country, you used to drive along in motorways and your windscreen was covered in insects. And today, it certainly isn't. There's no insects. The point of the motion really was to kind of get members really geared up and understand this, of the 10% biodiversity is absolutely crucial. And with the help of the Green colleagues, we're going to bring other things forward because I think we need to go further down this road than stop at just the point we have. So by putting this forward, I hope all the members can agree with this and we can support it. And I don't want to give the impression that the council is not doing enough, because it is doing a lot. But please, members, if you see planning applications, you get involved too. It's really important for us to continue to look at biodiversity, trees and so on. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pause there and just open it to the floor.
Thank you. Must ask first, Councillor Smith as a seconder, do you wish to speak or reserve?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll speak now. I'd like to start just by thanking Councillor Virgo for his efforts in bringing this motion, which I believe speaks to a very important local issue. And I would also like to thank Councillors Gilby and Collings, who have contributed to the final version of the text, which is before members today. There's certainly been some partisan tensions in the room this evening, but actually, this motion has been a truly cross-party effort, and it demonstrates that the members of this council are capable of setting aside our political differences and working together for the collective good of residents where we can find common ground. The natural heritage of our borough is of particular importance to residents, many of whom cite the abundance of accessible, high-quality and biodiverse green spaces as among the principal virtues of life in Bracknell Forest. There's no escaping that we face significant pressures to deliver on our share of national development targets. We face a national housing shortage in this country, and sacrifices are inevitable if future generations are to be able to access affordable quality homes. I do not object to Bracknell Forest making our contribution towards this necessity, but we must always do so in a manner that mitigates the impact of new development, both on the amenity of our existing residents and our natural environment. Measures such as biodiversity net gain are intended to ensure that such impacts are compensated for and that development positively enhances the surrounding environment so far as practicable. Unfortunately, recent measures by central government to water down biodiversity net gain requirements for smaller developments risk a substantial cumulative impact. I'm also unconvinced that there is significant evidence that current BNG requirements are presenting a genuine barrier to development. The only obvious beneficiaries of diluted environmental policies and development are the developers. I want to acknowledge recent work by council officers towards the publication of our own biodiversity supplementary planning document, which already sets out a strong local policy position, so far as we are able within the context of national planning policies and central government direction. This motion is not intended to undermine or reproduce that work, but rather to reinforce it with the full backing of this council. I hope, therefore, that colleagues will likewise back this motion, sending a clear message both to residents and to developers that this chamber will do everything in our power to protect biodiversity and the natural heritage that makes Bracknell Forest the vibrant green borough that it is.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Harrison, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have some sympathy for the government in what they're doing, but not in doing this, because of the reasons they're doing it, which is the stalling of housing delivery in the country. If fewer houses are being built than we need in this country, we have a problem, and they want to reduce the burdens on developers. But I think this is the wrong way of going about it. I think Bracknell Forest has a great record in terms of biodiversity enhancement, especially with the larger developments, it's quite easy. because you have a master plan, you can decide where you're going to put big areas of green space and open space. And Bracknell is a very, very good example of planning those sort of green spaces around our new developments. But the danger in leaving smaller sites out of that requirement is that you could then have parcelling of sites into smaller parcels and salami slicing to get below the threshold. And therefore the benefits to biodiversity are lost. And that would be a real shame. We need a fairly even playing field in this. And so I support the motion, and I hope it's fairly multi-party.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Councillor Barnard, please.
Well, I hope on this particular motion I can be consensual and supportive, because I think this is an absolutely fantastic motion. For many years, I think the saddest thing is when you see development, big or small, when established hedgerows are ripped out, when oak trees are cut down, and the promise always has been that replacements can be provided. Well, let's be honest, in the current world, re-establishing an oak tree, even if it does take, with climate change doesn't take any longer, it's not a viable solution. We lose biodiversity by doing that. And I think what brought home to me, and it's interesting you mentioned larger and smaller sites, was that there was a fairly large housing development, and I shan't say exactly where it is, but some residents will know, where we decided that we would take measures, and the house developer were going to take measures to protect the badgers. So they built a fence round the woodland where the badger set was, but they built houses all over their foraging ground, with the net result that badgers were killed fairly routinely and regularly on a road because they had nowhere to forage. Now that might sound like a very small point, but as has been said by Councillor Virgo moving this motion, that there are direct consequences to all of this. And there has to come a point where creative planning, creative development means that we can really take this on board. Because it's never straightforward. And there's been an application in Warfield which has resulted in the loss of a very, very good, very, very beautiful, mature oak tree. It's nobody's individual direct fault, but it's a combination of 2 or 3 planning decisions taken over a period of time that resulted in that. Now, I absolutely recognise that our officers, everyone involved in the planning process, are under huge pressure. That's absolutely clear. I recognise that every day it's about balancing the need to deliver housing versus biodiversity. But I hope that as a Borough Council we will give our officers and those the space and time they need to actually make good decisions on how we support biodiversity, and that what this motion does further is to make it very, very clear that this matters at every level. It is actually not difficult with foresight and forethought to protect established biodiversity-rich, areas and things like that. But it requires us to take a very, very clear line. And that clear line is that it matters as much to protect a hedgerow as it does to stick 4 3-bedroom houses in a row where the hedge is inconveniently in the wrong place. Let's live within the confines of our environment. Let's recognise in meeting the housing challenge on sites big and small that this really matters. I think, Councillor Virgo, you made a really, really good point at the start. I remember even 10, 15 years ago when you drove around the highways and byways of Bracknell Forest at this time of year, you'd run out of screen wash and actually go to Halfords and get the stuff to clear the insects off. Sadly, you don't see it. And I think that is a real testament and a wake-up call, because if that insect life goes, if those smaller insects go, you end up in a situation where you don't hear that bird song in the morning in the way that you did. You don't have that biodiversity. And actually, it takes a little bit more of that environment out of Bracknell Forest. It is all doable, and I'm really pleased that we've got this motion tonight. And actually, I hope that anybody listening to this will understand the shared passion we have. And I would just ask all of our councillors who are involved in the planning process, either at ward or committee level, to just really recognise that they have the full support, and there are ways through all these issues to make sure that we deliver to this. That is what residents expect, and I think hopefully tonight, if we have a unanimous vote, that's what each and every councillor here wants. So let's get together, let's do it. And if that means that there's a bit more grit in the oyster on some of these developments and we push back harder, Councillor Gilby, we won't be going for you for missed deadlines. In fact, actually, I'd rather like to see of that 82 to 94% that go over the 8 weeks, that you'll be telling us that about 50 to 60% plus of those are because we're wrangling over the biodiversity net gain and actually how things are allocated on a site. and I look forward to supporting you in that in the remaining few months of this administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnard. Before we go on, I just let members know that a goal has been scored, and it's not Argentina. So anybody else? I saw Councillor Gilby. Did you have your hand up a minute ago? Do you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure how I can top that. In fact, I shall quiz you all at the end to see if you've remembered what I even say or whether your minds are to the football. I will, however, start by embarrassing Councillor Virgo by also acknowledging his commitment and passion and the work that has gone into bringing this motion forward. You're right. There is not just a climate emergency. There is a biodiversity emergency. And I believe the central concern that's in this motion is shared across this chamber. Biodiversity matters, and Bracknell Forest should continue protecting and strengthening its natural environment. As we've discussed, the government has confirmed that for applications made on or after August 6, developments on sites of 0.2 hectares or less will generally be exempt from the statutory requirement to deliver a minimum 10% biodiversity net gain. Members will take different views on that national decision. Our responsibility tonight is to agree a clear and practical local response, which I believe is what this motion does. The motion recognises that what happens on individual small sites can cumulatively have a significant effect on the character and ecology of our borough. For those listening in, 0.2 hectares may not seem much, but it represents, I think, something like half of our planning applications. This version has been shaped through constructive discussion. I want to thank everyone who's been involved in it. First, it notes the Biodiversity and Green Infrastructure SPD adopted by Cabinet on June 23rd and supports its effective implementation. And to the points that's been raised, please, I do share in the message that councillors support officers in its effective implementation by paying close attention to any and all applications in your area. The SPD supports our local plan and addresses incremental losses of habitats and green infrastructure, including on developments outside the statutory biodiversity metric. The amendment also makes clear that we will continue encouraging 10% biodiversity net gain on all sites, so far as we are able within the regulatory framework. Second, the motion reaffirms the Council's climate and biodiversity emergency declaration. It commits us to protecting and enhancing biodiversity and supporting wildlife corridors and ecological connections between the borough's woodlands, parks, open spaces and residential areas. It anchors that commitment in national planning policy, our local plan, the new SPD, the Bracknell Forest Biodiversity Action Plan and our statutory duties. Third, it asks the Council to write to the Secretary of State highlighting the particular importance of biodiversity within Bracknell Forest and raising awareness of the potential cumulative impact of the exemption for small sites. And let me make clear, this is consistent with the Council's consultation response at the time that we were invited by DEFRA to submit our views. We opposed a wholesale exemption and argued that Council should be allowed to operate proportionate local arrangements to mitigate losses and invest in biodiversity improvements. I have no problem with putting that message forward again to government. Fourth, the motion supports the implementation of the Berkshire Local Nature Recovery Strategy and partnership working with neighbouring authorities and relevant organisations. Nature does not recognise administrative boundaries. Habitats and ecological networks cross them, and our response must do the same. Finally, it provides for an update within 12 months through the Council's existing biodiversity report and state of nature reporting arrangements. So an important point of clarification in that motion, we would have published a report anyway, but I'm very happy to reinforce that intention. This report will give members and residents transparency around local action and progress, including implementation of the Biodiversity Action Plan and the new SPD, without creating a duplicate reporting exercise or asking officers to repeat work already completed. So in essence, this motion acknowledges concern about the national change. It retains an explicit ambition for biodiversity net gain on smaller sites. It reaffirms our emergency declaration, provides for representations to government, strengthens cross-boundary cooperation, and ensures public reporting. At the same time, it respects the legal framework and allows officers to focus on implementing the policies and measures we have already adopted. I ask members to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilby. Yes, sorry, Councillor Collins, you had your hand up, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like others, I really believe that everyone in this chamber, everyone watching this meeting, and all our residents recognise the benefits of biodiversity and therefore its protection and the actions we must take to improve and increase it. As one who has run a local environment group for many years, I believe Bracknell Forest Council already does much for biodiversity. I was pleased to respond to the recent Biodiversity and Green Infrastructure Supplementary Planning Document consultation, sorry, that's a bit of a mouthful, and to see it adopted by Cabinet. We have our 4th revision of the Bracknell Forest Biodiversity Action Plan, and we, working alongside all other local authorities in Berkshire, have developed, approved and published the Berkshire Nature Recovery Strategy. It is therefore extremely disappointing that national government has chosen to change the rules around biodiversity net gain within the planning system, particularly the introduction of this 0.2 hectare exemption, which we're all talking about, meaning that the smallest developments will not be required to provide biodiversity net gain unless any on-site priority habitat is identified and will be negatively impacted. I therefore absolutely agree that we must lobby national government again for further amendments to reverse some of the unwelcome changes made, especially in light of the impending changing government leadership. And we must support officers to continue to improve biodiversity in the borough with the enthusiasm and commitment they have always shown. And they must report on progress as they are expected to do in due course. Members, I will be supporting this motion and I urge you to do the same. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. I'll take Councillor P. Thompson, please.
I would just like to stress how immediately relevant and urgent this issue is, as we are aware of a small development that has already been divided into a number of different areas, and it would appear that the point 2 is relevant to that request. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? We have got one online, so we'll
Yes,
now go
Mr. Mayor, we've got Councillor Mackenzie Boyle
Okay,
wishes to
so
speak.
Councillor Mackenzie Boyle, would you like to speak, please?
Yes, sorry, my mouse has not had enough cheese today. It's not working particularly well. Can I just say this is a terrific motion. Councillor Virgo has done a fantastic job. We must support it. But can I just say, when as retiring chair of the Parishes and Towns Climate Change Working Group, I know what our parishes and our towns are doing towards biodiversity on their patches. They are a fantastic bunch of people, absolutely terrific. And while we're talking about badgers and newts and everything, there are fewer bats around my house. It was lovely at dusk to see them. We don't see them anymore. Very, very sad.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Councillor Watts. Sorry, Councillor Watts, sorry.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say I'm very pleased to see this, and I'm really pleased to see the support from across the party to dedicating their attention to biodiversity, because I mean, as Councillor Gilby said, you know, birds, bugs, biodiversity doesn't stop at Bracknell. We all need to support this in the borough, and no matter what our politics, we all live here, so we need to do everything that we can inside and outside of this chamber I mean, I for one would like to see more of those swift and bat walks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watts. Anybody else wish to speak? No, nobody online. Okay, I'd like to invite Councillor Virgo to sum up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for everyone who spoke, actually. And I'd like to thank particularly Councillor Gilby for his support and his thrusting this through, because I don't think it's about politics anymore. It's about us living, frankly. And the more we wake up every day to see the weather and what's happening to it, I think we should all be very concerned about how we're going to live. This isn't going to solve anything, but what it is going to do is to make sure that Britain, as it was, remains an area that our children can go and look at biodiversity and see birds and all the rest of it. And I'm only reminded by France because I saw this in my mind because France, I think it was, someone in this room probably knows more than I do, but they planted trees along many French roads actually because people could walk in 40 degrees of sunshine and not get completely scalded. And I'm just reminded of that now because I don't know about everyone in this room, but the sun over these last few weeks has been extremely strong. And the number of deaths actually that's been reported, I think, is going to reach 10,000 or so in Europe. So it's a big problem, and I think we can do our bit, and I'm very grateful for everyone who's spoken and the support of the executive member and the Liberals too, and the Greens. So I'd like to thank you very much. Let's go for the vote. Let's stop talking.
Quite agree. Okay, everybody. Right. Okay, so the motion is set out on the screen. The Democratic Services Officer will count the votes of councillors in the room. So please make sure your hand is clearly raised. Only those in the room can vote. So can we have show of hands to those that support this motion? Thank you. Unanimous. Yep, that's unanimous. Thank you. We'll now come to the third motion as outlined on screen. Is it there? Yeah. Okay. Before I invite Councillor Bidwell, please could you confirm that you are moving the motion in Councillor Jeffrey's absence?
Yes, that's true.
Thank you. Councillor Purnell, do you second the motion?
I do.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, can I ask if the proposer and seconder would be willing to consider a small amendment that in no way, shape or form will change this? My reasoning is that in the resolutions, and I'm happy to take guidance on the wording, I think there needs to be an exploration of the role that councillors have in the oversight of a licensing service in whatever form that ends up. The reason being that it seems to me that there's some strain between operational and strategic oversight. And if we're looking at best practice for delivering this, then I think we need to understand what best practice is in terms of member engagement and involvement, because after all, that has formed part of some fairly lively discussion and debate over the last few weeks. So I'm happy to take a steer from the proposer and the seconder if they're prepared to put an amendment into that effect.
Okay, everybody. Sorry. I think we need to adjourn so you can discuss this, if that's okay with everybody.
That's absolutely fine. I hope it will be no more than a couple of minutes, but I'm happy for you guys to come back with something that reflects that.
Councillor Bidwell, Councillor Purnell, are you happy to do that? Yep. Okay. Do you want to? We'll adjourn the meeting to use the Okay, everybody, thank you. Sorry about that. We have an alteration motion. Okay, so it's not an amendment, it's an alteration motion. Who is going to propose this, please?
I think I can propose this on behalf of the conversations we just had with the Conservatives.
In the interest of that, Councillor Purnell, I'm happy if you want to second it, but equally I'm happy to second it with the amendment. Very supportive of that.
Yeah,
in the bit of moving debate on,
go ahead.
whilst recognising the significance of it, I think actually that motion encapsulates everything we need to.
Okay, so we are. So, in interest of clarity, Councillor Bidwell, you're moving the altered motion on the screen, yes?
Correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. And Councillor Barnard, were you seconding it?
Absolutely.
Okay, brilliant. Can someone read it out?
So the additional wording that was added as the alteration reads on the second bullet point, highlighted in yellow, recommendations from this review, including the roles of councillors in oversight of the licensing function, will be reported to the Licensing and Safety Committee.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are we clear? Okay, brilliant. Okay. So, Councillor Bidwell, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Yes, I'm happy to move this motion. It demonstrates that the Council is determined to learn from a serious failure and strengthen public confidence in our taxi licensing system. The motion rightly recognises that licensing exists first and foremost to protect the public, particularly women, children and vulnerable residents. Importantly, it goes beyond acknowledging what happened by asking this Council to resolve the 3 clear actions that are actually in the motion. I won't go through all of them. We've just amended one of them. These are sensible, practical measures which place safeguarding, accountability and continuous improvement at the heart of our response and help restore the confidence our residents rightly expect. I urge members to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bidwell. Councillor Barnard, would you like to speak? Or
Yeah,
reserve?
no, in seconding this, agree with everything that's been said, but just would like to make a few further observations. Let's be clear that at a time of huge uncertainty, there are many good officers in the licensing service who day in, day out do a good and outstanding and excellent job. And I think we all understand when a service is under close scrutiny that often gets forgotten. And I think that's the first thing to say. Secondly, I think that the comments in this motion that reference the victim in this again are timely or important. I asked for the additional thing to be put in place because as a councillor who has over the last 30 years, well nearly 30 years, supported a number of councils and a number of councillors in various functions, it's really important that we get some clear guidance on understanding the strategic role that we have. We don't operationally deliver or approve licences. Whatever structure comes out of this, and I would hope actually that we can work through and understand that rather than going through a costly reorganisation, we can understand where we go to, but that's for the review to do. That at the end of the day, that we have a strategic function and oversight. And that's really, really important because when this is reported back to licensing and safety, I think very clearly we will be able to reflect back to all those involved, including the victim and those that are known in this particular case and others, that we take this function seriously, but we are clear about what limitations we have with regard to it. Because of course it's a quasi-judicial function and therefore we just have to be a little bit careful on that. The final thing I want to say is that it's not just the DBS checks, it's not just those, it's the work that we have done for many, many years that came out of a significant safeguarding review by the previous administration that was refreshed, which was around understanding child exploitation in regards to licensed cabs and actually the role that taxi drivers had in understanding what looked suspicious and inappropriate in terms of the transport of children with other adults. I have to say that it was as a consequence of that review that some mandatory training was put in place and the vast majority of our licensed drivers undertake that training and recognise they've got. This has been an extremely difficult function that has been explored in this council. But I finish by saying that everything is a learning process in this, but we need to recognise that the way that confidence is restored is by taking, as you say, a systematic step-by-step improvement in this. Nothing is gained by trying to reinvent what is there without good cause. And I finish by saying to each and every member of the PPP service, when things are going well and you are doing the job that you do day on day, we applaud and recommend that, because there are things. We recognise as well the significant challenges that COVID brought to that service. I think that's really, really important. And that once we understand what roles we have as elected members in that, I hope that future discussion and debate in this chamber will be appropriate to that. Because let us be clear, like in many aspects of what we do, if we cross that line from strategic to operational, we compromise the service, and actually that will be a bigger loss of trust than anything that has happened so far. We should understand the roles and responsibilities we have, discharge them well, make sure that the licensing service is appropriately funded and supported, and in doing so seek ways for assurance and quality in that regard. But I'm fully supportive of that motion, and can I just thank all those involved for taking the time to put that small additional amendment in. I think it strengthens the end result and look forward to working on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnard. Now we open up to debate. So does anybody wish to speak? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to say firstly, I think it's very important that we continue to recognise that at the heart of this issue there is a real person who is a real victim of Dewan Khan's crimes, who must not be made a political football. I'm pleased to note, therefore, that members seem to have moved beyond the earlier partisan tone around this issue, and we do have a cross-party amendment before us. As the recently appointed Chair of Licensing and Safety, I welcome this motion. It addresses an extremely serious historical failure in our licensing service delivery. It's right that we acknowledge that failure, and it's right that this council apologises for that failure without reservation. I was serving as a substitute member on the Governance and Audit Committee meeting that prepared the recommendations highlighted in this motion. I was pleased to serve in that capacity and proud of the recommendations that the Governance and Audit Committee put forwards, and I am pleased again to support this motion. The only comment I will make is with regards to the final bullet point, which concerns investigating alternative delivery models. I'm happy to support the motion with the wording proposed, but I do feel that it's important that we don't put the cart before the horse on this matter. I've not yet seen any convincing evidence that an alternative delivery model would have prevented the failures that led to the issue of Dewan Khan's licence. And I think it's important we do not act on this issue purely to be seen to be acting, but that we act in a way that responds genuinely to the evidence which is before us regarding the specific causes of those failures. Councillors have still not had a clear answer as to exactly how it was possible for this error to occur, and I believe it's imperative that we continue to pursue that line of inquiry before we decide how to respond, or the final decision with regards to how we respond and mitigate this. Only by understanding precisely what went wrong can we be confident that the measures we put in place and implement as a council will be sufficient to prevent such occurrences again in the future. We owe that level of certainty to our residents, and I trust that all efforts will continue to be made to deliver that.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was horrified and really sorry to understand that a failure in a service that this council delivers was responsible for, the damage done to at least one victim, and that Dewan Khan was not stopped in his tracks earlier. Now, and the reason we've asked for the slight amendment to this motion is I think we need to examine, and I'm going to be totally open-minded about this, whether there are better ways of monitoring a service of this type, and whether members, and we're rightly held responsible for those services by members of the public, whether there are better ways of doing it to make sure that we have a real handle on what's going on and that there's proper transparency. I'm with Councillor Smith here about let's not put the cart before the horse and talk about reorganising things before we've looked at exactly what happened. But let's take a proper, objective, sensible look at it. I think we can do this as a I'm not going to say uniparty. I think that might give some people the wrong idea. But cross-party approach to to this sort of issue.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Anybody else? No. Anybody online, Deputy Mayor?
Nobody online, Mr Mayor.
Okay. So, okay, if nobody else wants to speak, can I ask Councillor Bidwell to sum up, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It won't be long. I think the valuable input across party, we're all on the same page here, really. In closing this motion, it's about ensuring, really, that lessons are translated into action by resolving to prioritise every recommendation from the government's audit report, review best practice from other authorities, although I do accept that, you know, we can't be deflected from getting to the bottom of how and why in the first place. And examine whether alternative drawers could further strengthen the licensing service. Now, I think this is very important because it will demonstrate how seriously members here are taking what has happened. And although I do accept we can't be diverted by process too much, we do need to explore absolutely everything. As I used to say, we need to go over this like a drum, really. And then, you know, that will strengthen further the licensing service. The council should be demonstrating a commitment to openness, where I think we've started that, but we need to continue that with accountability and public protection. I think these resolutions provide a clear programme for improvement and reinforce that safeguarding must remain the centre of every licensing decision. And I therefore commend this motion to Council and urge all members to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Bidwell. Okay, now we now go to the vote. The motion is set out on the screen in front of you. The Democratic Services Officer will count the votes of councillors in the room. So please make sure your hand is clearly raised. Only those in the room can vote. Okay, so can I show of hands for those that support this motion, please? Okay, that's carried. Okay. Well, that's it. Thank you for everyone that's attended. Pardon? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well. Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I just want to thank you for attending this meeting. To clear it closed. Okay, well done.